Hi, thank you for joining me and welcome to Tutorial F, Fabulously Figurative Feelings. And the main thing we're looking at in this tutorial is figures of speech, such as some of these that are on here on the slide: simile, alliteration, sarcasm. Of course, there's many more and a lot to do, so I guess we should just get going. So figurative language refers to language that uses ways that deviate from their literal interpretation to achieve a more complex or powerful effect. This view of figurative language focuses on the use of figures of speech that play with the meaning of words, such as metaphor, simile, personification, and hyperbole. For me, the easiest way to explain literal versus figurative is to say, when he told me to go jump in the lake, he didn't mean it literally. He didn't mean I should really go and take off my clothes and jump in the lake. He meant get out of my face. He meant it figuratively and not literally. Literal meaning provides a straightforward interpretation of words or phrases, whereas figurative language involves deliberate deviation from literal meaning to convey a deeper or more nuanced message. By skillfully navigating between the two, authors ensure that their intended meaning comes across clearly, while still maintaining the richness and subtlety afforded by figurative devices. This kind of language uses comparisons and symbolism to express ideas creatively and beyond literal meanings. It enhances writing by adding depth, emotion, and vivid imagery, making concepts more relatable and memorable. Some examples: metaphor, similes, personification, hyperbole, to enrich your communication in a unique way. So maybe the bottom line one is metaphor. Metaphorical writing. A metaphor is a figure of speech that makes a comparison between two unrelated things by stating that one thing is another thing, even though this isn't literally true. For example, she is a rose. She's not really a rose, but it's comparing the beauty and promise of a rose with this woman that we're writing about. So a metaphor is a phrase describing something as something that's not in reality. It's a symbolic comparison. Love is a battlefield. Her eyes were shining stars. Of course, they're not really shining stars, but we're comparing her eyes to stars, emphasizing that her eyes are bright and attractive. She is a flower. Of course, she's just a person, but we're comparing her to a flower, and we're implying that she's really beautiful. From a famous poem by T.S. Eliot, The Burnt Out Ends of Smoky Days is comparing the end of the day to a burnt out cigarette butt. The street was a ribbon of moonlight. Of course, it wasn't really a ribbon, but it looked a little bit like a ribbon as this light made these curving shapes on the ground. Their knees were twisted like old thorn trees. This, of course, is not a metaphor, because it's got the word like in it. So that'll be coming in a second. I should have said here, their knees were twisted old thorn trees. Let me change it, because then it is a metaphor. Their knees were twisted old thorn trees. Now it's a metaphor. So here's a whole lot of tiny, tiny little metaphors. She was a star, a blanket of snow. She cried a river of tears. My mother-in-law is a dragon. The classroom was a zoo. She's a night owl. He's a couch potato. He's a pig. She's an airhead. There were two peas in a pod. Life is a roller coaster. Mary is ice cold. The lake was a mirror. My brother is a monster. I have 7 rugrats. A symbol is a compressed metaphor A symbol represents some idea. It could be a picture, a word, or phrase having a complex of associated ideas, such as a rose is a symbol of love. Famous old poem, gather ye rosebuds while ye may, old time is still a-flying, and this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying. I guess I put this here because the rosebuds here are symbolic of stuff you should do while you can. And this flower here that smiles today is a metaphor of something that you could be doing today, but tomorrow may be too late. Similes, similar to metaphors, but they've got this like or as. He had eyes like fried eggs. So it's very clear these are comparisons. He had eyes and they were like fried eggs. If it were a metaphor, we said he had fried egg eyes, we'd have to work out, he doesn't really have fried egg eyes. We're implying that his eyes are big and red and shiny like fried eggs. A simile makes a comparison between two unrelated things. However, instead of stating that one thing is another thing, a simile states that one thing is like another thing. She has eyes like fried eggs. A simile is a type of figurative language that is used to compare one thing against another using like or as. Her smile was as bright as the sun in the sky. His face was as red as a tomato. So watch out for those words like and as to make a simile. Her personality was like champagne. Her hair was like silk. He danced like a cat on a hot tin roof. And a whole lot more similes here. Strong as an ox, brave as a lion, tall as a skyscraper, as hot as hell, as hard as nails, as light as a feather, tough as old boots, bright as a button, shiny as a penny, common as muck, white as a sheet, tall as a chimney, bold as brass, cool as a cucumber, wet as water, sweet as sugar, pleased as punch, as slow as a sloth. Personification, a special type of metaphor. The sun awoke from his bed. We're giving the sun the human quality of waking up from a bed. Don't get confused if something's already human and you're giving it animal characteristics. It's not personification. Only something that's not human, making it seem human. So non-human things are described as having human attributes. The rain poured down on the wedding guests, indifferent to their plans. Describing the rain as indifferent is personification because rain doesn't care one way or the other. It doesn't feel any human emotion. I suppose in that way it can be indifferent. The wind whispered through the trees. The wind is given the human action of whispering. So that's personification. The clouds looked down and wept. Clouds can't weep. So far we're making good progress. We've looked at three of the biggies: simile, metaphor, and personification. We have many to go. So let's roll straight onto another biggie, irony. This escalator outside the gym is irony because we assume you're going there to exercise, so it's ironic that you're going to go up there on an escalator. I was taught irony is saying the opposite of what you mean. Sometimes it is. I mean, in this case, you just have to have a feeling for irony. It doesn't quite add up, this escalator outside the gym. So it's ironic. It's not what you'd expect at a gym. A form of figurative speech is irony. This is when a statement made is directly contradictory to reality. It's also used to convey a style of sarcasm. Sarcasm uses irony in a nasty way. There are several types of irony, including verbal irony, situational irony, and dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is when the characters on the stage are not aware of something. The audience knows something that the characters don't know. That's dramatic irony. So here's verbal irony. when a speaker says something but means the opposite. What a lovely day, when you mean it's pouring outside. Situational irony, a discrepancy between what's expected to happen and what actually happens. The fire station burns down. I guess the escalator outside the gym. And as I said, dramatic irony, the audience knows something that the characters do not. Character in a play is about to make a bad decision, and we as the audience know that, but he or she doesn't. That's dramatic irony. I can't wait for my detention session. I guess that falls under verbal irony. Some more examples. When he stepped out into the thunderstorm, he exclaimed, "What lovely weather we are having." I've left out the word weather. What lovely weather we are having. The irony of the situation was that the robbers targeted the police station. The marriage counselor ended up getting a divorce from her husband. I posted on Facebook about how bad Facebook is. He claims to be an animal rights activist, but he wears a fur coat. The ambulance arrived at the heart attack patient, but ended up running him over. She was a cobbler or a shoemaker, yet her children had no shoes. I won the lottery on my retirement day. As I said, sarcasm uses irony in a nasty way. Good evening, Mr. Jones. How kind of you to finally grace us with your presence. It's nasty. You must have worked very hard to come last. So we've looked at another biggie, that's irony. Moving on, people want to say hyperbole, but it's hyperbole. When she cries, not all the buckets in the world can hold her tears. It's just a fancy word for exaggeration. An intentional exaggeration of the truth, used to emphasize the importance of something or for comic effect. My backpack weighs a ton. It doesn't literally weigh a ton, but we're effectively emphasizing how heavy it is. Hyperbole is a figure of speech that exaggerates the meaning of a sentence. My granddad is as old as time. I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. I nearly died laughing. And some more examples of hyperbole. She ran faster than the wind. This bag weighs a ton. You have enough food to feed 5,000. That boy is as tall as a giraffe. My mom is going to kill me. She has a mile-wide smile. This job is impossible. Is that such an exaggeration? I guess it could be. I'm drowning in my sorrows. My holiday is never going to arrive. He is my guardian angel. The trees are dancing in the wind, if that's not personification. You have a brain the size of a pea. I've told you a million times not to do that. There's a joke. I've told you a million times don't exaggerate. I could eat a horse. I have 1,001 things to do. Litotes. I don't mean litotes. I made a mistake. What I mean is meiosis. That's the opposite of hyperbole. Saying this is understatement for effect. Instead of blowing something up, you're toning it down. My example here, could I have a drop of whiskey, please? You don't literally just want a drop. You mean you want very little, but you're playing it down. I've got a cent or two in the bank. That's meiosis. How could I make this mistake? It's meiosis. Litotes is something else. Meiosis is a figure of speech that uses understatement or negative expressions to emphasize a point or create a positive effect. This rhetorical device often employs double negatives or contrasting statements. Oh, it's not the worst idea in the world, or I'm not unhappy with the results. That's meiosis. Paradox. Everyone wants to live long, but no one wants to get old. It sounds crazy, yet it's true. You have to be cruel to be kind. But if you're preventing your child from sticking his finger into the electric light fitting, you're being cruel to be kind. It doesn't make sense. Yes, it's quite possible that you can find yourself in a situation where you've got to be cruel to be kind. Something crazy, yet it makes sense. Paradox presents a seemingly contradictory statement that when you consider it more closely may reveal a deeper truth. Less is more. Sounds crazy, but sometimes it's true. The only constant is change. Sounds impossible, yet on deeper reflection, it's very true. To kill someone with kindness sounds crazy, it's paradoxical. If you've read Romeo and Juliet, you know about love is bittersweet. Oxymoron, two opposites right next to each other. An oxymoron pairs contradictory words in order to express new or complex meanings. Parting is such sweet sorrow. So sweet sorrow captures the complex and simultaneous feelings of pain and pleasure associated with passionate love. An oxymoron is a term that features two words that appear to contradict each other but make sense of the situation overall. This rhetorical device is often used for humor or to make a point. Jumbo shrimp, civil war, deafening silence, angry relief. Two opposites right next to each other is oxymoron. My memories were bittersweet. And a whole lot more here. Pretty ugly, alone together, act naturally, definitely maybe. Clearly confused, farewell reception, deafening silence, jumbo shrimp, growing smaller, only choice, open secret, original copy, random order, sweet sorrow, walking dead, honest thief. Deeply superficial. All examples of oxymoron. Some of the more obscure ones now, this doesn't come up a lot in my world. Metonymy, the kettle is boiling, when of course it's the water inside that's boiling. That's what metonymy is. An object or concept is referred to not by its own name, but instead by the name of something closely associated with it. Wall Street prefers lower taxes. We mean the financial system, but we refer to it as Wall Street. It's metonymy. For symbolic or poetic purposes, calling the government the White House or the film industry Hollywood. Related to that one is synecdoche. I remember NEC looks like neck is part of the body. Yeah, part of something is associated with a whole. The dance will cost $50 per head. Part of something used to refer to its whole. The captain commands 100 sails when we mean 100 boats. A part of something represents the whole. Wheels to represent a car. In the Navy, all hands on deck, meaning all sailors on deck. Our ABCs, her 1, 2, 3s. She pays using plastic, meaning her credit card. My first set of wheels. Ask for her hand. He doesn't just want her hand, he wants to marry her. Some wind in the sails. We want wind to move the whole boat, not just the sails. There's hands again. We cracked open the bubbly or the champagne. They employed the boots out. I don't understand that one. I think I should just delete that one. I enjoyed tickling the ivories for the piano. He goes out to earn the bread. Of course, it's not just bread that he buys, but bread is part of the meal. Okay, those weren't such biggies, but pun is a biggie. The Railway Society reception was an informal party of people of all stations in life. Stations is the pun, because we're talking about the railways. So stations there meaning all levels in life, but stations related to railways. So a pun is a play on words. Time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana. A horse is a very stable animal. Ha ha ha. The pun, the joke is in the word stable. Can a leopard change its spots? Yes, when it moves from one spot to another. An egg in the morning is hard to beat. An elephant carries a lot of weight. The opinion of an elephant carries a lot of weight. The stakes were too high. The pun there is in the spelling. I mean, stakes is the what's at risk is too high. But since we were talking about beef, now this is steaks, spelt as in beef steaks. The optician who made a spectacle of himself. Ha ha. The helpers of Santa are subordinate clauses. How do you communicate with a fish? You drop them a line. As soon as we're playing with the word, it's a pun. Antithesis, a rhetorical or literary device in which an opposition or contrast of ideas is expressed. They look like saints, but they act like devils. A little bit like oxymoron, but here the two opposites are not next to each other. The whole sentence is balanced in these two opposites. Examples of antithesis. To err is human, to forgive divine. Go big or go home. Spicy food is heaven on the tongue, but hell in the tummy. Those who can do, those who can't teach. Get busy living or get busy dying. Speech is silver, but silence is gold. No pain, no gain. It's not a show, friends, it's show business. No guts, no glory. A moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. Anaphora, I never use this one, I just speak of repetition. But people know about anaphora, a figure of speech that uses the repetition of a word or phrase at the beginning of consecutive sentences, clauses, or lines to help create emphasis. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I think we're moving on to the sound devices. If the next one is onomatopoeia. What a funny word that is. Onomatopoeia. A figure of speech in which words evoke the actual sound of the thing they refer to or describe. The boom of a firework exploding, the tick-tock of a clock, and the ding-dong of a doorbell are all onomatopoeia. Words are used to describe a sound, and these words actually resemble the sound they're referring to. These words can create sensory images and enhance the writer's experience. Buzz for a bee, bang for a noise or explosion, or a door that's slamming closed. Fireworks crackled, banged, and hissed. The clip, clap, clop of the horse. And further examples, my horse neighed, the sausages sizzled, a hacking cough. The ghost said boo, the wind whistled, the cat purred, flutter, flutter, flutter. Rustle, 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 the car zoomed. And more, splash, dripped, chatter, bang. The clock ticked, buzzing bees, clang, gasped. Is that really onomatopoeia? Moo. I question gasp, but I suppose we go, it sounds a bit like gasp, but I'm not sure. So, onomatopoeia, the first of our sound devices. This one is so big in looking at poetry. It comes up a lot. And even common in the world in advertising, in the names of businesses, because alliteration makes things sound a bit punchy. So the same sound repeats in a group of words. Bob brought the box of bricks to the basement. gives a musical effect, helps phrases to stand out. Doug's delicious donuts. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. She sells seashells by the seashore. And further examples, the horse's hooves hobbled. In Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire, hurricanes hardly happen. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. This one's not really alliteration because it's E sounds. So this would actually fall under assonance, not alliteration. And I don't really like that one either. Fog filled the flora in the forest. We've done that one. We've looked at the fog filled the flora in the forest. Silly soccer season starts. The streets are sad and silent. And the end of this poem, it's about a statue in the desert that once upon a time the guy thought he was so mighty because his statue was put up in the desert. Now the statue is broken down. And what happened to all that high and mightiness? Nothing. What's around that statue now? Not the empires used to command, but just the lone and leveled sands. So we normally say those L sounds at the end there, the lone and leveled sands, emphasize the emptiness of the desert around him. So that's the effect of that alliteration in this famous poem, Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley. The repeated L sounds intensify the feeling of isolation and vast empty space. So assonance is like alliteration, but this time it's vowel sounds. So squeaky wheel, also to create a musical effect. The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain. The early bird and worm. Repetition of A, E, I, O, and U is assonance. Girls in curls swirled around the world. We've made very good time because if I see it's this page, I see we're through the figures of speech. So what if we looked at all those comparison ones, simile, metaphor, then there's things like oxymoron, hyperbole, irony, pun, and then towards the end now we looked at the sound ones, alliteration, assonance, and onomatopoeia. So it's a lot of content we've covered in a short while. So this is more general stuff about these figures of speech. Why do writers use them? I can see a mistake there. Writers, to express descriptions in unique and beautiful ways, to go beyond the literal, to capture complex ideas in a new way, a visceral effect, to make it more physical, to add humor, and rather than to be flowery, but to be real, to express the way things really are, to add an extra flair to conversation, to convey depth, urgency, or importance of a matter using these rhetorical devices. Sometimes we use them without thinking about them. But when used in written text such as fiction, poetry, song, or script, they can add a new layer and make a text more interesting to read, to further describe the emotions of characters, to give a clearer picture about what the writer is referring to. Figurative language functions as a powerful tool that allows writers to emphasize certain ideas and create understatement by using literary devices like idioms, metaphors, or hyperboles. Direct the author's attention to significant aspects of the text. Which one is this now? It's just a scratch. Of course, that's the one that I got wrong, meiosis, not litotes. What's litotes, by the way? She's no idiot, meaning she's clever. To me, it's not a biggie. So, but here, saying it's just a scratch can create a sense of irony. A powerful tool, emphasize certain ideas, reinforce the overall theme or message. We've looked at this. If I see words starting with F, I say again, we've made great time through these things. An embarrassing or tactless act or remark in a social situation. A faux pas. Looks like you'd say a faux pas. But of course, it's French, a faux pas. He made a faux pas when he said that she was obviously pregnant. It was a tactless remark, and she wasn't pregnant, and she didn't take the remark nicely. He made a faux pas. A mistaken belief, especially one based on unsound arguments. I think they want us to say a fallacy. It's not fact, it's a fallacy, it's incorrect. Develop rapidly and successfully. His business flourished. And silly and pointless is fatuous. That's a fatuous remark. Why did you make such a fatuous remark in such a serious conversation? Fatuous. Not showing a serious or respectful attitude. Which one would you say it is? I think it's flippant. It's a bit of overlap between these two, but I think we're meaning to say flippant. And then treating serious issues with deliberately inappropriate humor. I think they want us to say facetious. I hope I'm not getting those two mixed up. Incapable of producing any useful result. Pointless. It's futile. It was futile to ask him to help you. He's too selfish. It's an exercise in futility to ask him that. You're wasting your time. Only two here. A one-dimensional character with little to no complex emotions or personal goals. A character who does not develop is a flat character. A character who develops is a round character. A mode of storytelling in which a storyteller recounts events from that storyteller's own personal point of view using a first-person grammar. We looked at pronouns. First-person pronouns are I and we. So if a novel is written using an I, we can say that novel is written in the first person. Oh, we're on to our writing already. And to introduce this idea, I'll normally play a game. I'll ask students to make up a question starting with the word why, and then on another piece of paper to scribble down an answer to that question starting with the word because, and then we shuffle them up. So we read a why question and the completely wrong answer. Why is the sky blue? Because of the way that I see my glasses. And we're looking for unusual comparisons. So that's what I'm talking about in today's little suggestion about writing, is to create your own similes and metaphors. And there's this poem about it, which I learned as surprise and wild connections. We're looking for unexpected things, a parsnip sprouting for president, or hailstones melting in an ashtray. Unless there's those, nothing really happens. It takes surprise and wild connections, doesn't it? A walrus chewing on a ballpoint pen, two blue taillights on a Tyrannosaurus Rex, green cheese teeth, maybe what we wanted least or most, some unexpected pleats, words that never knew each other till right now. Plug us into the wrong socket and see what blows or what lights up. Try untried circuitry, new fuses. Tell it like it never really was, man, and maybe we can see it like it is. So in today's piece of writing, see if you can dream up some similes and metaphors that have never been seen before, that take the reader by surprise. So here's some topics. Euphemism, telling it like it isn't. Left to the past, straight to the present, and right to the future. Then time stopped. How to knit a giraffe, whatever you make of that one. If you could confer 3 qualities on your godchild, what would that be? Or a picture. One more time. Euphemism, telling it like it isn't. left to the past, straight to the present, and right to the future. Then time stopped. How to knit a giraffe. 3 qualities for your godchild, or the picture. See if you can create an interesting piece of writing. Quick little vocab quiz. To carve marks on a hard surface. I think they wanted us to say engrave. Describes one who has no desire to do anything. He has no ambition. Is that an L or an I? Maybe they intended something else, but all I can think of is lazy. A young tree. A sapling. The art of cultivating a garden, starting with an H. Maybe you don't know the word. Horticulture. Describes a man who is womanish. That man is EFF, effeminate. One who sees the dark side of life. Not an optimist, but a pessimist. The position of the body. The posture. One who disbelieves in God. An atheist. The want of proper care and attention. Negligence. That brings us to the end. Please come back and join us for tutorial G, gorgeous grammar. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, go safely.